the Russian Hall between Dixon, you know, where the mill was, that other way, you know. But there was always a wedding going. Summer, you didn't have to be invited. If you felt like you weren't engaged, you just went. Because what they used to do, when everybody sat down to the meal, it was a sit-down meal, you know. They had a cook that made all this. So then when everybody was served, she came along, she had a towel over her hand to show like she got burned. Make believe she got burned. And then she went to everybody and you gave her whatever you wanted. So she made some money for herself. That was a hard job to cook for all them people. And it was always the same meal that you got to do at the weddings. You got soup, you got stuffed cabbage, kielbasa, mashed potatoes. It was usually the same meal, no matter where you
It hasn't changed.
That was really nice. And you know what? When my mother passed away, you know, so we wanted to have a nice dinner for her. Because that's one thing my mother requested. She always said when she dies, she wants all the people that are coming to view her body to come to a sit-down meal. Because she liked to do this. She felt if they took time out to come to view her when she died, this is how she wants to reciprocate. So we had Polish Hall on Dixon Street rented out, and Mrs. What's her name? Yuri. From I can't think of her name. Well, it'll come to me. So we had different women from the church cook the meal, and it was a sit-down meal in Polish Hall on Dixon Street.
For Jack?
For Babcia. That was for Babcia's funeral.
On Dixon Street? I don't remember
Yeah,
that.
on Dixon Street there was a Polish club. There was a Polish club.
Well, she died in 1962.
What?
She died in 1962.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. I was there.
I know that. All I know is that I know definitely that's where the meal was served, in that club. And the reason, you know, you take
Well, the
Stampin.
Kosciuszko Club was there.
Yeah, Stampin and your father, they all used to go there to the club. They belonged to this club.
Well, I know.
Yeah. So that's where they had and Stampin used to go there Sunday, so other times. They would have dances there, and Stampin used to enter. Everybody thought he was so special, Stampin, you know, because he used to like to sing, you know, and they thought, oh, he was so full of fun and everything. But I'll tell you what, when it came to household, Sophie was the boss. Sophie was the boss. There was nothing she could do. He could say whatever he wanted, but she was the boss.
What was the story there with the St. Anthony's Church
Yeah, what about it?
and the breakup there? Were the people from Sacred Heart, were they thrown out of the church or did they quit?
No, they quit on their own.
Okay.
You know why? Because of the priest.
Well, I thought the bishop is who owned the church.
No, it was the priest. The priest that was, see, I went to that school,
Mhm.
to Paula school. So that was the priest. And, you know, years ago, some of these older people, they used to glorify the priest, you know, like he was somebody special. They don't do that today. You know they don't. With the way everything is signed in the papers now. So what he did, the people were giving money pertaining to something, I don't know what it was for. Then he took this money, he took a trip to Poland. And the people found out about it. You know, the committee and all. That's what caused the breakdown.
Oh, really?
So then they decided to break away. So some of the people came to the Sacred Heart Church. That used to be a Methodist church before. Yeah. So then they bought the church, and but before that happened, you know where they used to hold their services? On Dixon Street in Homestead. There used to be a bar, you know, and it was empty. And they rented this bar. They had pews put in and an altar, and that's where we had the services. and me, myself, I have to give myself credit, and Katie, Adolf Radowski's sister, Katie, we used to go there every Saturday to clean this place, get it ready for Sunday, for services, you know. And that Katie, she was always so funny. We knew where the wine was and everything. And Katie used to say, you know what, Ted? She'd say, I think we ought to have a little nibble here. She was so funny. She was a con, I'm telling you. So then, after that, that's how they bought this church up on a hill. And ever since Santa was there, everything was fine. Everything was wonderful. People got together. We always had dinners and everything. Till the end, when the little kids were growing up, they got old enough, they got married, they went different ways. They went, you know, after the husband most of the time, or one way. So then that meant the congregation started to get smaller and smaller and smaller. Then they were getting older and older, so they were dying off. So between the ones that were dying off and no younger kids there to carry on, this is how we had to give up the church. So that's how the closing came.
When I was growing up, it didn't seem like there was anything in the church for the kids. I mean, you went to catechism, but that was something you just wanted to get
I
out.
remember when you were growing up, because you was an altar boy.
Yeah, forever.
Yeah, you know what? Wasn't Nelson an altar boy? I think Nelson was too. Not
when I was there. He might have been before that, but I
Before that, probably. I think he was.
not. There was, I think 4 of us were on the same age that were that, and then they dropped out.
I'm pretty
and I
sure he
quit.
was. I'll have to ask him. You know, I forgot.
Yeah.
I was thinking different in those days.
But I thought my father said that the controversy down there in St. Anthony's was as to who owned the church. You know, who paid for it and who owned it, and I thought there was a conflict with the bishop.
That church, St. Anthony's, it was located on 5th Avenue. And that's where Grandma Virgie and Sophie, they lived in a duplex. Like here, a duplex, you know? So Virgie lived here and Sophie lived here. They had one long porch in the front, and the church was right across the street, that way on an angle.
That's where the Giant Eagles is down there now, right?
The what?
That's where the Giant Eagle is down in the waterfront now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh,
You know, well, you went down Victoria and then you got to 5th Avenue, you took a right, right?
yeah.
Well, that's where the Giant Eagle
Well, anyhow,
is.
and so it was so nice to sit on that porch. You know, I would notice it. They both had swings, identical. They were different. They weren't a wooden swing. It was a, what do you call it?
The rattan?
A woven.
The rattan.
Rattan, yeah. A long rattan swing here, a long rattan swing on that side, same kind of windows on the house. In between the swing, I still remember, there was a vase made that high, and it was made, the design of the vase was this way, this way, this way, and this way, and then the base. Stanton made that, handmade. And we used to have a fern. They always had a fern in there. It looked so nice. And a rug on the porch, a runner, you know. This way and that way, and this way. When you came out of the house, the hall came this way, and then the porch this way. So on Stanton's side, it was the same. So on Stanton's side, when you entered the hall, and it was at the end of this hall, there was a bathroom. That was special. Sikorsky's didn't have no bathroom there, but Stanton's had. So the kids used to like to go there, you know, to the bathroom. I don't think Stanton liked that too much. He didn't want them going there all the time. But the place really looked nice. And in front of the house, there was ground like from here to, well, a little bit past the stable. So they had flowers planted there, you know. That was in front of the house. Now, in those days, not everybody had ground like they do now. Like my father, he had ground, but he didn't have no grass. In his backyard, it was all bricked. The whole thing was brick. No grass there. The only place we had grass was in front of our house. It was no bigger than this. So I remember when I was a kid, I used to make ice balls, you know, and I used to sell them, you know. And the kids used to come to buy them. That's why I used to have my ice ball stand right there. Oh, things were so different. And all our streets were paved. But on Fifth Avenue, where Grandma lived and Sophie lived, their main street had concrete. It wasn't bricks. But where I lived, Fourth Avenue had all bricks. But everything. So
And the
that,
backyards adjoin each other.
oh, and they had a backyard where they had ground. This side and that side, they had grass and everything there. Well, your mother, you have pictures of that.
Not really, not for Homestead.
No? Oh, I have to look to see.
Yeah.
My pictures are all up the attic.
Yeah.
I don't know when I'm going to get up there.
Well, I remember my mother said that my father would come up to the cemetery and work, and one time he brought back this plant that he liked, and he put it in the yard. It was poison ivy.
Oh, yeah.
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 Because he'd see it at the cemetery.
Yeah.
He said, "Well, this is nice."
Hey, you know what? See, like where they lived on Fifth Avenue here, then there was an alley after that. Then from the alley, this comes to Fourth Avenue where we live. So the alley was between Fourth and Fifth Avenue, you know. So my father, anytime he felt like it, he used to go over to visit Virgie, you know, Grandma Virgie or Sophie. And when Grandma Virgie saw him coming, she used to say, oh, if it was Friday, she'd say, oh, you have to hide this. You know, she didn't want my father to see that she wasn't having fish. Because I told her he didn't believe in eating fish on Friday. So she used to want to hide everything. But how much can you hide? I'm sure you can smell it. But everybody got along, you know. Anytime my father had work to do, where we lived, where I was born in that house, because we had this house where I was born and this house that my father had bricked. It had it all brick. And then there was this yard here, all brick, and a house here and a house here. And they all lived together. Church of Helen lived here. Beachside lived here. Vince, you know. My brother.
They don't know.
My brother, they lived in Chicago. He lived here with his wife. And I was born in this house. And in fact, I remember when Church of Helen was being married. It was from the house where I was born. And then there at this house where we moved from this house to we had a frame house, then we moved into the brick house. My father had bricks put around this whole house. You're not going to believe this. Do you know that the neighbors next door, this one neighbor, he was so rotten. He told my father that he had his house over on his property about that much. Do you know that my father had that house moved? He had that whole house moved, you know, since he made such an issue of it. And then he had bricks put around it. So it turned out to be a brick house, a brick porch and everything. Oh, but then when there was work being done, like when my father was living, if he had digging or something to do, whether it was your grandpa Sikorsky or whether it was Stempen, they right away came over to give him a hand. He didn't even have to ask. You know, where today, you want anything done, you're going to use that phone and ask beforehand to see if it's going to be the right time, you know, that you can get somebody to come and help you.
Yeah, and if you use the main phone, they're not going to answer, so you got to go through the cell phone.
Yeah. Boy, we used to get our telephone calls on the other corner. The woman had a candy store. She was Slovak. And she had a telephone. So she knew the people that lived there. So if somebody wanted to call you real bad, then they had to call her a number. So she had to get somebody in the store to run over and tell you that there's a call for you. That's how nice people were then. When I lived in a project. My next door neighbor didn't have a telephone, but her daughter-in-law lived with her. She used to get her calls in my house. Her calls used to come. I used to have to call next door to have her coming in to the telephone. It wasn't for me. But years ago, people used to do things for one another. Not today. Today, everybody wants to be out front, you know. Well, all I know, I'm thankful that I don't know anybody anything. My father didn't know anybody anything. When he went shopping on 8th Avenue, he needed some kind of a part for the house. I don't know what it was. When he come home, he saw that the Jew, he called him a Jew, he gave him $2 too much in change. He went back up the 8th Avenue and he says to him, he knew him by name, I come back to give you the $2 because you gave me $2 too much. You know what the Jews told him? He says, anytime you need anything, you can come to my store and I'll give you anything you need. You don't have to worry about the money. Because he was so honest. So I think we learned that from him.
Well, see, but that was the thing, you know. The thing, I honestly believe that nowadays, younger people that aren't exposed to the whole idea of honor. And I honestly believe that honor is what made my father what my father was, and I never met my grandfather, but that's what made him what he was.
That's true, that's true.
And the whole thing, they didn't need a bunch of laws and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's what did it. And even if somebody wasn't looking, they did it the right way. And that's just the way it is. But nowadays, they're just taught, people are taught from the time they're kids,
Well,
whatever you can get away with is the thing to do.
You know what? It goes back to the time, I don't know if you ever heard of it, I imagine you heard about it. Remember Mrs. Desowiska, Tootsie's mother? Did you know?
Was she the one up on the hill here?
Yeah, she had that house up
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
She was real good friends. Sophie liked her. That's her best friend. So when her mother, they used to call her Bunya, when her mother needed money, this is when we had our church already, and her mother needed money and she didn't have it because this is when her husband had a business. His name was Tomkevich, and he took a trip to Europe, and when he died, he didn't leave her anything or whatever.